Have you ever wondered why some people seem to handle pain with such grace that you'd never guess they're breaking apart inside? If you've ever known an INFJ, you've probably witnessed this exact phenomenon without even realizing it. These complex individuals are masters at hiding their deepest wounds, often suffering in silence while the world around them remains completely unaware of their internal struggle. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of personality psychology's most intriguing mysteries. We'll explore the hidden world of INFJ pain, uncovering the invisible battles they fight and the secret ways they cope when life hits them hard. By the end of this video, you'll understand why INFJs are often called the most misunderstood personality type, and more importantly, you'll learn how to recognize when they're hurting and how to help. 1. The INFJ Mask. Why they hide their pain. When an INFJ gets hurt, the first thing they do isn't cry, scream, or lash out. Instead, they put on what we call the mask. This isn't just any ordinary facade. It's a carefully crafted emotional armor that's been perfected over years of feeling different from everyone else. INFJs learn early in life that their emotional intensity can overwhelm others. They've been told they're too sensitive or too deep countless times. So when pain strikes, their instinct isn't to reach out, it's to protect others from their darkness. They'll smile at work, laugh with friends, and ask about your problems while their own world crumbles behind closed doors. This masking behavior comes from their dominant function, introverted intuition, which constantly processes information internally. They're always analyzing, always thinking, always trying to understand the deeper meaning behind their pain. But this internal processing happens in isolation, making their suffering invisible to the outside world. The mask serves another purpose too. It maintains their image as the strong, wise friend everyone depends on. INFJs often feel responsible for others' emotional well-being, and they believe that showing their own pain would burden those they care about. So they continue being the lighthouse in everyone else's storm, even when their own light is flickering. 2. The silent retreat. How INFJs process emotional pain. When an INFJ gets hurt, they don't just withdraw, they vanish. This isn't your typical introvert needing some alone time. This is a complete emotional retreat that can last days, weeks, or even months. They'll cancel plans, avoid social media, and become ghosts in their own lives. During this retreat, something profound happens. Their minds become battlegrounds where past hurts resurface, connecting to the current pain in ways that would surprise even them. INFJs have this unique ability to see patterns in their emotional experiences, and when they're hurt, all those patterns come flooding back. They'll replay conversations word for word, analyzing every facial expression, every pause, every inflection. They're not just processing what happened, they're trying to understand why it happened, how it fits into the bigger picture of their life, and what it means for their future relationships. This processing isn't just thinking, it's feeling everything at once. INFJs experience emotions with incredible depth and complexity. A simple rejection doesn't just hurt their feelings. It triggers existential questions about their worth, their purpose, and their place in the world. 3. The perfectionist dilemma, self-blame and overanalysis. Here's where things get really complicated for INFJs. When they get hurt, they don't just feel the pain, they analyze it to death. Their perfectionist tendencies kick into overdrive, and they start dissecting every aspect of the situation, usually concluding that somehow it's all their fault. An INFJ who's been betrayed by a friend won't just feel angry or sad. They'll spend hours wondering if they said something wrong, if they were too needy, if they should have seen the signs earlier. They'll create elaborate scenarios in their minds, playing out different versions of events where they could have prevented the hurt. This self-blame isn't just about the current situation. It connects to their deepest insecurities about being fundamentally flawed or different. INFJs often feel like they're living life with a different instruction manual than everyone else, and when they get hurt, it reinforces their belief that they're somehow doing it wrong. The overanalysis becomes a form of self-torture. They'll examine every detail until they've convinced themselves that not only did they deserve the pain, but they probably caused it. This internal dialogue can be brutally harsh, with an inner critic that would make a professional critic seem gentle. 4. The invisible tears, physical symptoms of INFJ emotional pain. While INFJs are masters at hiding their emotional pain, their bodies often tell a different story. The stress of suppressing intense emotions takes a physical toll that others rarely recognize as connected to emotional distress. INFJs might experience sudden headaches, digestive issues, or unexplained fatigue. Their immune systems often take a hit, making them more susceptible to illness. Sleep becomes either an escape or an impossibility. They might sleep for 12 hours or lie awake all night with racing thoughts. Some INFJs develop what looks like social anxiety but is actually emotional overwhelm. They might stutter slightly when speaking, have trouble concentrating, or feel physically shaky in social situations. These symptoms are their nervous system's way of processing the emotional overload they're carrying. The most telling physical symptom is often a change in their energy. INFJs naturally have a warm, inviting presence, but when they're hurting, this energy becomes muted. They might still smile and engage, but there's a dimness to their usual spark that close observers might notice. 5. The loyalty paradox. Protecting those who hurt them. One of the most puzzling aspects of how INFJs handle pain is their tendency to protect the very people who hurt them. Even when someone has betrayed their trust or caused them significant pain, INFJs will often find ways to excuse their behavior or minimize their own hurt. This isn't just about being a people pleaser, it's about their complex understanding of human nature. INFJs can see the pain behind someone's harmful actions, and they often feel more empathy for the person who hurt them than anger about what they did. They'll make excuses like, they were going through a tough time, or they didn't mean it that way. This loyalty paradox extends to their unwillingness to talk about their pain with others. They're afraid that sharing their hurt might damage the other person's reputation or relationships. So they suffer in silence, protecting their betrayer's image while their own pain remains invisible. This behavior often frustrates friends and family who can sense something is wrong but can't get the INFJ to open up about it. The INFJ's loyalty to their hurt giver creates a double isolation. They're alone with their pain and alone in their loyalty. 6. The emotional archaeology. Digging up past wounds. When an INFJ gets hurt, it's never just about the current situation. Their minds become archaeological sites where every past hurt gets excavated and examined. That betrayal from a friend doesn't just hurt in the present, it connects to the betrayal they felt in 3rd grade when their best friend shared their secret. This emotional archaeology happens automatically. INFJs can't help but see the patterns, the connections, the ways their current pain echoes through their entire life story. They'll find themselves crying not just about what happened yesterday, but about everything that's ever made them feel this way. This process can be overwhelming because it multiplies the pain. Instead of dealing with one hurt, they're suddenly confronting a lifetime of similar wounds. They might find themselves grieving losses they thought they'd processed years ago, or feeling angry about injustices they'd forgotten. The intensity of this emotional archaeology often surprises even the INFJs themselves. They might think they're overreacting to a small slight, not realizing that their reaction is actually to decades of accumulated pain that this current situation has awakened. 7. The creativity shift. How pain changes their artistic expression. INFJs are often naturally creative, and their pain has a profound impact on their artistic expression. When they're hurt, their creativity might surge or completely disappear, but it rarely remains unchanged. Some INFJs find that pain unlocks a deeper level of artistic expression they didn't know they possessed. Their writing might become more raw and honest, their music more haunting, their art more abstract and emotional. They pour their invisible pain into their creative work, often creating their most powerful pieces during their darkest moments. This becomes a form of emotional release that they can't find anywhere else. Other INFJs find that pain blocks their creativity entirely. The emotional overwhelm makes it impossible to access their usual creative flow. They might sit in front of a blank page for hours, feeling like they've lost a part of themselves along with their ability to create. For many INFJs, their creative work becomes a coded message about their pain. They'll write stories about characters going through similar struggles, or create art that represents their emotional state. It's their way of sharing their pain without actually having to tell anyone what's wrong. 8. The spiritual crisis. questioning everything they believed. INFJs often have a strong spiritual or philosophical foundation that guides their lives. When they experience deep hurt, this foundation can be shaken to its core. They might find themselves questioning everything they once believed about goodness, justice, and the meaning of life. This spiritual crisis isn't just about religious beliefs, it's about their entire worldview. INFJs tend to see the world through an idealistic lens, believing in the inherent goodness of people and the possibility of meaningful connections. When they're hurt, especially by someone they trusted, this worldview can crumble. They might spend hours questioning whether their beliefs about human nature are naive, whether their hopes for authentic relationships are unrealistic, or whether their sensitivity is actually a weakness rather than a strength. These existential questions add another layer to their pain, making them feel lost and disconnected from their usual sense of purpose. Some INFJs emerge from this crisis with a deeper, more nuanced understanding of life. Others might become more cynical or guarded. Either way, the spiritual questioning that happens during times of pain is often invisible to others but profoundly transformative for the INFJ. 9. The energy drain. How emotional pain affects their daily life. The invisible nature of INFJ pain extends to how it affects their daily functioning. While they might appear normal on the surface, the emotional processing they're doing behind the scenes is exhausting. Simple tasks become monumental efforts, and they might find themselves struggling with basic responsibilities. They might forget important appointments, have trouble making decisions, or feel completely drained after social interactions that would normally energize them. Their usual attention to detail might slip, and they might make uncharacteristic mistakes at work or in their personal lives. The energy drain isn't just about being tired, it's about having most of their mental and emotional resources tied up in processing their pain. They're running emotional software in the background constantly, leaving little processing power for everything else. This can create a vicious cycle where their decreased performance in daily life adds to their pain and self-criticism. They might feel like they're failing at everything, not realizing that their struggles are actually a normal response to emotional trauma. 10. The relationship ripple effect. How their pain affects others. Even though INFJs try to hide their pain, it often affects their relationships in subtle but significant ways. They might become more distant, less available emotionally, or more sensitive to perceived slights. Their friends and family might notice something is off but struggle to pinpoint exactly what's changed. INFJs might become hypervigilant about other people's behavior, reading negative intentions into innocent actions. They might pull back from relationships proactively, protecting themselves from potential future hurt. This withdrawal can confuse and hurt the people who care about them. Some INFJs become more giving during times of pain, trying to compensate for their emotional unavailability by being extra helpful or generous. This can create an imbalance in their relationships and prevent them from getting the support they actually need. The ripple effect of their hidden pain often creates misunderstandings and distance in their relationships, ironically causing more pain and reinforcing their belief that they're better off handling things alone. 11. The healing journey. How INFJs eventually process and overcome pain. Despite the complexity of their pain processing, INFJs do eventually heal. Their journey to healing is often as invisible as their pain, happening in solitude and marked by small, internal shifts rather than dramatic external changes. The healing process usually begins with them finally allowing themselves to feel the full extent of their pain without judgment. This might happen through journaling, creative expression, or simply sitting with their emotions without trying to analyze or fix them. INFJs often need to learn to set boundaries and communicate their needs more directly. This goes against their natural tendency to accommodate others, but it's essential for their healing. They might need to have difficult conversations or end relationships that consistently cause them pain. The healing journey for INFJs is often marked by a gradual return to their natural optimism and idealism, but with more wisdom and self-awareness. They learn to protect their sensitivity while still remaining open to deep connections. 12. The support they need. How to help an INFJ who's hurting. Supporting an INFJ who's in pain requires patience, consistency, and respect for their processing style. They need people who can sit with them in their pain without trying to fix it or rush them through it. Simple presence and acceptance can be more healing than any advice. INFJs need to know that their pain is valid and that their sensitivity is a strength, not a weakness. They need reassurance that their way of processing emotions is normal for them, even if it's different from others. The most important thing is to create a safe space where they feel they can be vulnerable without judgment. This might mean respecting their need for space while also letting them know you're available when they're ready to talk. Conclusion: the pain of an INFJ is like an iceberg. What you see on the surface is just a small fraction of what lies beneath. Their ability to hide their hurt while continuing to function and support others is both a remarkable strength and a profound burden. Understanding the invisible nature of INFJ pain helps us become more compassionate and observant friends, family members, and colleagues. It reminds us that the strongest people are often fighting the hardest battles, and that sensitivity isn't weakness, it's a different way of experiencing the world. If you're an INFJ watching this, know that your pain is real and valid, even if others can't see it. Your depth of feeling isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's a gift that makes you capable of profound empathy and understanding. And if you love an INFJ, remember that their quiet strength often masks a tender heart that needs gentle care and patient understanding. The next time you encounter someone who seems to handle everything with grace, remember that they might be fighting invisible battles. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply see the pain that others work so hard to hide, and offer our presence as a reminder that they don't have to carry it alone.